offerings here. We do need them to do what we do. Thank you, Mitchell. So please continue to give. I know we had a really wonderful summer of generosity when we asked for offerings for different things, and I know we'll be able to hear more about how all of that played out and went, but I'm sure you've seen some of those things even on our social media. But thank you for being generous and continuing to give. If you do have cash or check that you brought today, there are boxes on the wall in the main building, right when you walk in the door there. Oh gosh, I'm so directionally challenged. On the left, guys. Okay, you're getting a preview of my weaknesses, but there are boxes over there. I'm sure you can find them if I can. Okay, next slide. Summer volunteer opportunities. It's still summer, guys. We have 1 week left, right? Basically? Yes. So please scan this QR code and look at opportunities available. The Academy has several on there. Academy for the preschool has several needs on there that you can do. They're not even big time commitments, but even if you have an hour, 2 hours, if you want to do something with your teen, I'm sure you can bring them along. But we really do need help this week as we're starting several new programs and things are kicking off. So please just take a minute to look at that. And if you have questions, you can text me. You can text the person named on the form, and I'm sure they'll be able to help you. But please check it out if you have time this week. Finally, the church retreat is coming up so fast. September is like a blink away. We have several RSVPs so far, but if you were out of the country this summer or if you've been traveling, you might have forgotten to RSVP. So please take a look at this. Again, if you have any questions about who you should bring, what kids you should bring, what not, you can please reach out to me directly. I'd be happy to help you navigate those decisions and take any feedback that you have, so you can definitely reach out to me about that. But in the meantime, you can be praying for this time that we have together. It's unique. It's off campus. We haven't done that in, I'm not even sure how long. Decade plus for sure. So it's a lot of people to be together in a space. So it'll be a really special time, but please be praying for that as we are starting to prepare and make plans. But we do covet your prayers for this time just to go well and to be one of those memories we lock in for a long time all together. Sound good? Okay. Finally, I'm going to welcome up our wonderful speaker for this morning. Can you welcome her, please? Mrs. Deb Nava. We're short, so we get to speak from the stage.
Good morning, good morning. All right. Well, I'm Deb Nava. Thank you for having me. It's really, I think I say this every time, but it really is a privilege to speak to our congregation. You're such a special group of people. But I'm just going to take a second just to take this in. For everyone who came here in 2005, this is our 20-year, following Jesus moment, at least for me, in this very specific way. So it just feels very special, wow, 2 decades, and God is so faithful to multiply the work that has been done here. It's really beautiful. So anyway, I hope you've been enjoying this series that we've done this summer. I don't know, this is one of my favorite verses. I memorized it when I was a child, and but what's really impressive is that we have so many people to draw from that could speak to this and offer their perspective, and that they're filled with God's word and his spirit. And I just think that we're really blessed to have so many people contribute to us learning this verse this summer. So I'm just going to do a little quick recap. So Brandon kicked us off with the concept of chosen race, which was so helpful and so needed. I think because we're 21st century Americans, we hear the word race and we just pounce on that like wolves. But obviously this wasn't written to 21st century Americans, and so having that clarity is so important. And reminding us that it's that we're a nation with a shared identity in Jesus, and that helps us to kind of temper whatever wacky directions we could go with that, because believe you me, if you're not paying attention to what's going on in the world, people are going wacky directions with the word right now. And then Rachel covered the royal priesthood and our responsibility to carry out this legacy and being a part of this lineage and all the things that are associated with that title. We covered our connectedness to God through demonstration as a holy nation. Parker covered being his own possession, this beautiful image of being protected and preserved by God because we are his. And then finally, Grant last week gave a great message on being called out of darkness and the power that comes from taking time to remember and testifying to the work of God in our lives. So very power-packed. And then I get to take up this very last phrase. Like I said, I memorized this as a child. My mom used to get these like Maranatha tapes. She had like a subscription to them. But they did like a lot of like scripture music, like scripture worship type stuff. And I loved them. She played them all the time, like in the car, like while she was cooking. They were just like always in the background of my childhood is hearing these like Maranatha worship. And then like in the late 90s, they started to like, drop some like Latin-inspired, Caribbean-inspired worship. But anyway, so this is ingrained in my soul, and thank you, Mom, for that. So anyway, 1 Peter 2:9. Get this out. But you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's own people, in order that you may proclaim the mighty acts of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. Okay, I love talking about the light. It's one of the most frequently like referenced themes, like throughout Scripture, like front to back, and probably what is most notable or memorable, I guess, for a lot of people is in Genesis 1:3. So we'll go there. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was over the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. And God said, yes, let there be light. And there was light. So that's how like this whole party gets kicked off, is like this moment where God uses his voice and speaks into that darkness. I read a lot, and I think that this is probably one of the most like beautiful and fascinating introductories to like any piece of literature I've ever read. It's just there's so much meaning and power in this, like these 3 verses. I think part of it is that it's hard for us to imagine what like a formless void is, because we were born into a world with like light and form. But it's not hard to imagine formless, untamed, disordered environments that are chaotic and full of darkness. Like we're familiar with that. That's not hard to imagine. It's around us like all the time, in our hometowns and like our families, like so many places. But this use of dark and light, it's not like some coincidence that like Peter uses it later. It's like the writers of the Bible are so intentional. And like, I think coming back to this moment, this very first moment of God's like recorded voice, like in this story is really powerful. I love that Grant spent some time talking about how like darkness doesn't necessarily need to be like you came from this like life of drugs and all this stuff. Which I think like if you grew up in the church, that's kind of like your idea of what a testimony is. I don't know, like I grew up when we had Teen Challenge. I don't know if anyone remembers that. But it was like women who like were, like trafficked or coming off the streets or whatever. But like once they got saved, it was like they showed up at church and like cottagecore basically. And I remember thinking like, that's what happens when you follow Jesus? Like you lose your sense of style and like identity. I don't know. It just like, I just remember feeling like, oh my gosh, like that's what happens when you say yes to Jesus. Anyway, so it doesn't need to be that. Darkness is this pre-knowledge of God, this pre-knowledge of Jesus in our lives. It's a chaos of the world that touches us, and it has an effect on us and how we think and how we understand who God is. And all of us have been born into that. But what I love about this Genesis passage is that God uses his voice, and then there was light. There's an immediate effect. And we take that for granted, I think, because it's just this like matter-of-fact phrase that follows. And we've heard it like our whole lives. And it's like, sometimes it can lose its like profundity because we're like, let there be light. And there was light. It's like cause and effect. But it's like, what a profound thing to do, to use your voice. And it's like the first order of business in ordering a chaotic environment. For me, it's like if you take a step back from it and being able to recognize, like there was like this cosmic shift that happened when God spoke into that chaotic environment. We aren't given a physical source for the light. We know that this light exists without celestial bodies. We know that he had to separate the light from the dark once he spoke into it. And we know that it was good. But what's wild to me, though, is that God didn't permanently get rid of the darkness. It's still there. But he gives it a designation, and there's a time and a space for it to exist. He literally put darkness in its place. And I think this is like a fascinating aspect to how God approached this scenario. He called out, he spoke, and creation responded. Something new was put into the world by his word. Light is central to ordering chaos. The contrast of light and dark is built into creation, and we experience it every single day. So in 1 Peter 2:9, he's saying that we are called out of the darkness and into his marvelous light. A little over a decade ago, I guess it's probably like maybe 13 years ago now, Greg had invited people to write one acts for the Arts at Center Street. And I had this idea that I had been like sitting on for a while, and I was like, all right, I'll give my hand at some playwriting. So I had the bones of like this story. And that's all I could conjure. I was very insecure. And so I kind of like handed it off to Greg. And it was called In the Dark. And it was a musical starring the Ombies, Jeff Sherrod, Elise, and Mitchell. It was set in the 80s because I unironically love the 80s. And I love the music of the 80s, so, and the clothing, just all of it. I love it. Anyway, the premise is that all these folks gather for a dinner party, and then the lights go out. And I wanted to capture that in that scenario, you have all these people from like various experiences and like walks from life. And when the lights go out, they let their guard down. They let down their facades. They're honest with each other because they're not looking at each other in the face. I'm trying to remember, because I think like Kim got flirty with Jeff because she wasn't happy in her marriage, and then like he was bragging about his wealth. I don't know, there was like a lot going on. So the lights stay out for a while, and then they call the light guy, and he was played by Rob. And he's this character and he's there to fix like the physical light situation, but ultimately he sheds light and truth on them as people. And he has this insight and wisdom into like the human condition. He calls them out and he helps them come to terms with who they are, and that they can be who they are in the light, and they will be loved and they will be accepted, and there's permission to be who they are in the light. Greg did such a great job bringing this vision to life. But it was a concept that I found myself contending with a lot, like in my own personal experience. For me, like, I was like, I know the darkness, and I'm talking about like life before I was like earnestly following Jesus. It's like, I know the darkness. I know what to expect. I know how it works. I know how to function in that world. I understand it and I know it. But will I be loved? And that was like always my fear, is like, if people saw me in the light and who I really was, will I be loved? So when we're called out of darkness, it's into his marvelous light, and his light is good. We are called into it. Our salvation is unto something. There's purpose and there's work to do, and it's to become a nation. And that is the marvelous light. I love the way that this scripture is built up. It kind of feels like this like crescendo. Like that's the way like I felt when was reading it, because it's like every phrase builds upon like the next, on the next, on the next, and you come to this like end, and it's like called out of darkness and into his marvelous light. It's like a twofer, that like last phrase, because it's like you're called out of something, but then into something else. I kind of felt like this is like the epilogue of a really good story. Like this verse is a story. And like, I don't know if you've ever had that experience where you're watching a really good movie and it's like people who are like stranded on an island, or they went through some like tribulation or something like that. And they're like trying to work together and like figure out the situation. And then like the Marines come in and rescue them. And then like credits roll and you're like, something's missing there. Because like for me, I love an epilogue. Like give me 6 months later. Like I want to know who you became on the other side of that experience. I want to know how your life was changed. I want to know how you think now. I want to know who you're affecting and like what you're investing yourself in. Like I love that. Like give me the 6 months later. Because that to me is so important. It's like, yes, you get called out of something, you get rescued, you are saved. But then what? Unto what? Like for who? For what? That first half is so that, like when it begins that phrase, so that you may proclaim the good works of being called out of darkness. And like I said, that's not the end, you know? Like I think sometimes we feel like salvation's good enough, being saved, like being called out of that darkness, that's enough. But like it's not. There is more life on the other side of that salvation. And we are that work. We are that salvation for the hope of humanity. And it's unlike anything else that exists in the world. This is not like an arbitrary like concept. It's not a lateral move. This is like, it's that same significance that you see in Genesis. His word created something new with us as people, and it's connected to him. It illuminates the darkness. Like we illuminate the darkness. John 1 visits this and also reminds us of Genesis as well. In John 1, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God, and all things came into being through him, and without him not one thing came into being. What has come into being in him was life, and the life was the light of all people. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overtake it. It says, like, it's like that confirmation there, that though the darkness exists, like I said, like God didn't like do away with it. It is still present in our lives, in this world. The darkness cannot overtake the light. Like it can't. It can't. It can't. It can't. And I love it because it's like the light shines in the dark, but it doesn't work both ways. You can't like shine darkness into a light space. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's really meaningful. So I don't know why I like decided to look this up because I was just kind of curious, but did you know you can't stop light? Which I think is like, from like a physics standpoint, you can't like stop light from moving. But there were like, you know, clowns at MIT that were like, watch us do it. And so they claim they stopped light, but it was for 0.0008 seconds, which, okay. I don't feel like that counts. Like maybe if anything, you slowed it down, but I think that's fascinating in like a very practical sense, that you can't stop light from moving and you can't stop it from affecting the darkness. That's like, that is its nature, that is its character, is to invade darkness. I had a lot of conversations with people that were like here this summer, you know, doing programming and all kinds of stuff. And it's like such a good reminder to be that just because you aren't like doing a trip overseas doesn't mean that you aren't part of this good work, this light. Because like Hopewell in Nashville needs that light too. But, you know, of course, obviously our experiences overseas are so powerful, but they have to make sense here. You know, like we have to continue that same like fervor and desire to serve and to love and to be a light. Because if we can't, then what good is it that we're doing everywhere else? So anyway, last summer I had the opportunity to work with Ben doing Case Summer Edition. And with all the years of doing ministry here, I had literally never done Case. So when Steph asked, I was like, put me in coach. I'll do my best. So case is not for the faint of heart, guys. Okay, so clap for those who do case, because I don't know. I was like trying to reflect on this experience, because I was like, maybe part of it is like, I'm not cool, but, and I was thinking about the thing that Grant said, like maybe they thought I was like a decade away from being in a wheelchair, and like, they're just like, you're old, you're not cool. So I don't know, maybe that was it. But I had a lot to learn, and it was a very challenging experience for me personally. Kids in public school today are not like the kids we went to public school with in the 90s, like not even close. And I thought like technology and social media plays a huge role in that. But I think like on a sociological level, there's a lot going on with kids today. And a lot of them they're broken people being raised by broken people. And it's very evident when you come in contact with some of these kids. So anyway, there was this one gal last year that was particularly challenging, like very, very challenging, guys. I'm a patient person, okay? But she pushed all the buttons, and she was doing it on purpose, and she knew not to. I asked her not to call me something, and she called me every single day. Every time she like tried to get my attention, she would say it. But you could tell there was a lot going on at home. She wore like the same clothes usually, like every day. She didn't eat when she was at home, but she would like tell us like different reasons why, like, oh, I have an upset stomach, but there's other things going on. And it was clear that like the world she was coming from was chaotic. It was dark. And I remember walking to work in the mornings and praying and asking the Lord, like, help us be a light to these kids, but specifically to this one girl. And every day was really hard. And I had to pray for patience and pray that despite my best efforts and her like desire to like rattle me or to shock me or to say things that were like literally very mean, like just mean, But I was like, I wanted to see past that, because I knew there was something going on, and I think we all like recognized that. And so we would talk about her and like try to figure out ways that we could like serve her and love her. And like Ben was at the helm, and he recognized how she was affecting the environment, and so he's doing his best to love and like serve her. And I was like, oh, I hate being like bad cop, because I felt like I had to be the mom in the room, and like I don't know, like I don't always want to play that role, but I had to like be really firm with her, but also speak the truth in love. And because CASE isn't like a faith-based program, it's not like you can like refer to the Bible and be like, hey, listen, like you're God's kid, and like we couldn't do anything like that. It was like we needed to be a light to her, though, because she so desperately needed it. So when the program ended, I like didn't go to last like 2 or 3 days of the programming, but we like gathered together like a couple of weeks later to like debrief and like talk about the summer. And so Steph read this note to us. So I'm going to read a little snippet from this girl. Dear Mr. Ben, honestly, I don't know where to start with this, but I wanted to write this because I know I was always super negative and I complained a lot, and I very much regret it. I joined this summer because it beats laying in bed all summer. You always found a way to make every situation positive and to cheer me up. I don't know why I was always complaining. I guess I just saw the glass as half empty. Maybe I was worried about what my peers would think of me. It means a lot that you always tried your best to fix it or to make me feel better. I feel like I really took this program for granted, and I feel like I want to try and make the most out of these last few days. You make me want to try harder and be better. And I was just like, whew. Like, man, like being a light, like all of that prayer and work, it meant something. It changed somebody's life, And I know that like she will remember Ben always. And I know this because like when we've been out and about, like in the last several years, when I'm out with Josh, like we'll run into his old CASE kids. They like remember him because of his mustache, and like, but we've literally been at like restaurants, and there'll be like a server, or they'll be like over and then like the next booth, and they'll like come up to him and be like, "Thank you so much for investing in me, and like for believing in me, for like, believing in my talent." And it's like, gosh, man, like kids remember that stuff. That is like so important. So if anything, I'm going to be like a CASE evangelist. It's because I believe in how powerful it is and how meaningful that light is in those dark places. His marvelous light is something that can penetrate the most broken and hurt people. And I don't share that to be like kudos on us, but it's very much like this is the power of the light, and we do have the responsibility to testify to that because he called us out of that, and then we get to be it. We get to be the light to people. The Greek phrase from this verse translates as into the marvelous light of him. And I like how that sounds. It begins with this prepositional phrase, right? Like into. And like I said, it's like we are being called out of one thing and into another. So it demands a change of position, demands a change of environment, of action, and of being. The next word, might butcher this, davmaston, I don't know, means marvelous or full of wonder. And I think about Moses at the burning bush. You know, he's in the wilderness and he sees something and it makes him look again. I love the way that it's written in Exodus because I feel like you kind of feel his personality. There, the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire out of a bush. He looked, and the bush was blazing, yet it was not consumed. Then Moses said, I must turn aside and look at this great sight and see why this bush is not burned up. When the Lord saw that he had turned aside to see, God called to him out of the bush. I like that there are some parallels here. This idea of like marvel and like something that causes wonder. And God called out to him. He's called out of darkness into this marvelous light. And maybe for some of you, you're like, but Moses wasn't in darkness. He was a shepherd. But don't forget, he fled Egypt because he was a murderer. He didn't know how to handle injustice. He saw it, which was awesome. But he handled it like someone in the dark. So even Moses needs enlightened. The progression from there is found later on in the story. He said, I hereby make a covenant before all your people. This is Exodus 34:10. I hereby make a covenant before all your people. I will perform marvels, such as those have not been done in the earth or in any nation, and all the people among you shall see the work of the Lord, for it is an awesome thing that I will do with you. Again, it's this connection to what God is making of his people. And in this context, it's so powerful because by this time in Exodus 34, Moses had already broken that first set of tablets. So we learned that like a little bit about him. He has no chill. But also that the Lord knows this group of Israelites. He knows what they're capable of. They're capable of like erecting an idol. He knows who these people are. And yet he's like, I will make a covenant with you. Still, God offers this beautiful self-revelation, and then he renews his covenant. And that has always been his intent, that all the people among us will see the work of the Lord and this awesome thing he's doing with us. Earlier, I mentioned how we don't have a physical source of light in Genesis when he first speaks into the darkness. But God is our source. He is the source, and by his word. And sometimes I think about how like traditional things in Christianity, culturally, I guess, kind of rob us from appreciating the value of something. I was thinking about the old hymn, like This Little Light of Mine. And like we kind of carry this idea of Jesus as like a little candle. And like, I mean, it's fine. It's whatever. It's used mostly as a kid song now, right? Like it was like sung in big church a long time ago, but I don't know. I bet it's good for like motor development. I don't know, but we definitely use this a lot. I don't know, but we can't stay there because we need to think about the power behind let there be light. Calling out those words into the darkness and it instantly ordering space and time. He's not a volatile little Jesus candle. He is the source of life and light. And like it says in John, we are being called out of one way of living and into another. We are invited to participate in this awesome thing he will do. The thing about partnering with God is that there's no like one and done. There's no like sinner's prayer and then everything's fixed. This covenant is like, this is a long haul commitment. This is like, I will spend my life speaking into the darkness and believing and hoping that it will order and bring life and light. Because we're human, we're complex, and we're alive, and we make lots of choices, and God saw that with Israelites, and he sees it with us, and that doesn't deter him from wanting to partner with us. And like that broken case kid, it's like God sees past all the pain of humanity, and he knows like the potential, and he knows what is capable of coming out of us as people. Matthew 5, you are the light of the world. A city built on a hill cannot be hid. People do not light a lamp and put it under the bushel basket. Rather, they put it on the lampstand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven. And I feel like it kind of echoes some of those sentiments from Exodus 34. Like, watch what I'm going to do with you, and the world will be in wonder of what this thing is. And just like God was speaking through Moses to a community, and as this letter in 1 Peter is spoken to community, and Jesus speaking to a community, this is our calling. This is something that we share. And it reminds us that we aren't alone, guys. We aren't that little like candle out in the darkness. Like, you have to get that like out of your head, because that's not real, and it's not helpful either. And also, just one person doesn't like make up a city. You're not a city, but you're part of this new nation, and you're a part of this mission and this calling that we all share to the watching world. And even if you're in a moment where you're like, I feel lost, or I feel alone, or I feel anxious, or I feel depressed, that's okay, because you're human. That's okay. But that's what this whole thing is about, is God working with us, even in our brokenness. He is working with humanity to save humanity. And that doesn't mean that when you step into the light that there's going to be shame, or that there's going to be humiliation. And it's, even though, yes, it's vulnerable to come into the light, its intent isn't to hurt, it's to heal. Because if we truly believe in what this thing is that God is doing, and if he is the source of that, then we know that life is here, and healing lives here, and freedom lives here, and hope lives here with us in the light. And even if you are going through like a really hard moment, or you're in a hard season and you don't feel like you're like, being that light, like, you're not a dimmer switch. You're not going to like come in, like make us dim, but like come alongside us, because we're all like in this together. You know what I mean? Like put away these thoughts that like you're going to like, that you aren't worthy because you are. So I have this very specific image of light in the darkness that I felt like, and it's stuck with me for, 18 years, I guess. But I think it was 2007 or 8, and we were in India, and it was me and Hannah and Rachel were the gals on that trip. And we had this task, I guess, but a lot of the times, like in India, like the men and women are separated either in the church or they just have like different services. And we were in a very like old school, very, very old school, like traditional village. And the men were doing like a service with the men, and they were like, come take, like some women are going to come get you, and then they're going to take you to another spot. So they're like, it's just a 15-minute walk. I think it was like 45-minute walk in like 109-degree heat. So there was like a few of these women that came to pick us up, and it was towards the end of the day, And this village was like one of those villages where like everything is made of mud. Like every building, everything is the same color. And it's like the like slum area of that state. And it's like, yeah, brown is just everywhere. And so we're walking through this village, and I was taking up the rear because I was like the older person in the group. And I remember stopping and pausing for a moment because it was just the way that the sun like was setting, and the way that our girls were dressed in these like gorgeous, Indian saris, and they were like saffron colored and like turquoise, these beautiful colors. And I just remember pausing and watching this group of girls walk through this brown, ugly world, and the way that their clothing caught the light was just like breathtaking, because they literally looked like these lanterns, like walking through this dark space. And I just remember like stopping for a moment. I was like, I want to remember this forever, because at that time in my life, that was probably the darkest place I had ever been. And saw things that have like permanently stayed in my brain. But that image is like, I feel like God gave me a moment where it was like, I want you to remember this. This is who you are. That you are these lights walking into darkness and illuminating it and giving it color and life and beauty. And I think so many of us have experiences like that, where you're in a moment and God gives you like that vision or like a picture. This is light in the darkness. And it's so powerful and it's so meaningful. So that's an image that I think I carry with me all the time. And sometimes I think about like what it means for us as people to continually be exposed to the darkness and still have hope, and to still cling to the truth that we find in Jesus, and still looking at this calling that God has given us from that very first moment that he spoke into the darkness, when he called out Israel and says, I'm going to do something like so awesome with you, like with us, like we are partnering with God to do this really wonderful thing. And we get to be like a sun that's like coming up over the horizon, that sheds light and renews and brings hope and all the wonderful, incredible things that light can do. And we're his kids, and we're part of this new nation, and not just like part of it, but partnering with him to do this awesome thing. And what a gift it is to us, to our children, and to the watching world when we say yes, and when we invite Jesus into those moments where we feel like this is too dark, this is too hopeless, this is too something, whatever it is, that he gave us like the ability to speak into that, to speak into a moment. And there can be an instant response in the environment. And we are part of that. That is the lineage that we carry. We are coming out of something and into something even better than we could ever hope, ask for, or imagine. There's an Unnamed Servant song called Save the World. I kind of always thought of this song as like if we had a theme song and we were cartoons. I always think about like, if we had like a cartoon based on our community that was like kind of superhero-esque, like 1997 X-Men era, where it's like that kind of animation and like this song in the background. And like, I like to think of like, I don't know, like little animated Greg zooming around with his Bible and like teaching people. And then you have like Jamie and Jordan, like giving healthcare skills and like bouncing around the world. And like Celesta and Elise and Brittany, like with like coffee and midwifery bags, like educating and doing all this stuff. Like I literally think about this when I hear this song. But I think it's awesome because that's I don't know, that's what we're here to do, is to be that light in the world. I love it, guys. we're in his marvelous light, and it's a party there. Corey, if you want to cue the song, and I'll pray. Lord, thank you for the privilege it is to be this incredible people, this royal priesthood, this people of your own possession, that you have called out of something and into your marvelous light, that we could be a walking wonder in this world, that we could light up the darkness with our words, with our actions, with our just our love and our faith in you, Lord, and believing that we're connected to this awesome thing that you are doing in the world. And I pray that this week would be full of those moments, and that we could call on you, Father, and expect that there will be a change in our environments and in our moments, Lord, because that is the power of your word, and we're so thankful for it. We love you. In your name, amen.
Save the world. Breaking in like the wind, there's no stopping me. Here we go, people of hope, gonna save the world.